Demonschool was one of my most anticipated games of 2025. I vividly remember seeing the reveal trailer during 2022's PC gaming show, and it grabbed my attention due to the fact it looks like the early Persona games. From the trailers that followed, it seemed like it was just another in a long list of almost spiritual successor games, like what Stardew Valley is to Harvest Moon or Wargroove to Advance Wars. Games inspired by games the developers wanted to see a sequel or remake to, got tired of waiting, and did it themselves. Although we all know spiritual successor is the wrong term for these games, as none of the original creators were involved, but that's a discussion for another time. Anyway, I thought it looked cool. The PS1 Persona games are my usual go-tos when asked which old games I'd like to see remade for modern consoles, so I was totally down for seeing someone else play with that formula. Imagine my surprise then when I finally played it and realised my assumption could not have been further from the truth, and Demonschool actually has more in common with the likes of Paper Mario the Origami King, Super Hot, and chess than it does Atlus's most popular franchise. Developed by Necrosoft, the creators of Hypergun Sport and Gunhouse, two games I haven't played, Demonschool is a story-heavy RPG with simple-to-use, hard-to-master turn-based tactical combat and undemanding relationship management. You play as Faye, a young demon hunter attending college on the mysterious Hemsk Island, fighting to stop the apocalypse. Along her journey, she'll make friends and enemies, fight demons and gangsters, try to solve the island's many mysteries, and most importantly, stop the apocalypse. The story takes place over 10 in-game weeks, and each one is packed to the gills with story, combat, side quests, and social activities to grow your many friendships. Gameplay is split between exploring the island and fighting demons, and there are a lot of demons to fight. Each day is split up into morning, evening, and night, during which you're able to explore the island, take on side quests, and hang out with your mates. And at the end of the week, you get to fight a boss and take an exam for some reason. Exploring the island is limited. You choose your destination from a selection of areas in a menu, with activities and quests clearly labelled with icons. You're then free to run about the small area, talking to NPCs and interacting with the environment, and more locations become available to explore as the story goes on. One of the things I think Demonschool does really well over games with similar systems is that time only moves forward when you, the player, choose to progress the story. You're free to spend as much time as you like doing that day's side quests or playing minigames. The minigames themselves are played with members of your party, and successfully completing one increases their friendship gauge. And once that's full, you're able to do a special side quest with them to unlock the next friendship level and hopefully a new ability to learn as a reward. And in social RPG tradition, once a friendship gauge is maxed out, you can choose if you want to get off of them or not. I need to be clear about something here though. I was playing the pre-release review build, and in that build I was able to replay the minigames as many times as I wanted to, meaning I could spend a morning playing karaoke again and again, maxing out several characters' friendships in less than one in-game day. And by could, I mean did. This is an oversight, or exploit, depending on how you want to look at it, that the developers are fully aware of, and in an email sent to the website I wrote the original review for, they said they will be adjusting so that you can only play each relationship point giving minigame once per day. Which, to be honest, sounds a lot better, but I haven't had a chance to experience it for myself, and I'll be honest, I probably won't, as it already took me around 60 hours to finish, and I just don't have the time to replay it to check out all those fixes. The minigames themselves are very simple and fun as a quick distraction, but I found I had a weird reaction to the karaoke game, which I just want to talk about quickly. When karaoke starts, you're given a song topic like fire, water, cat, etc. You're then given 3 options which act as the next line of the song, and you pick one that contains the song topic before the time runs out. Super simple. However, I have ADHD with a touch of dyslexia, so the combination of trying to read prompts against a ticking clock caused my brain to short circuit, and I'd often overlook the key word due to panic reading. I had a much better time of it when playing on the Steam Deck, as I was able to use the touchscreen to make the selection instead of the D-pad, and knowing I had a bit more time stopped my brain from scrambling, which made it possible to read the paragraphs properly. I'm well aware that this is a me problem, or as maidenless dickheads like to say, a skill issue, but I know I'm not the only person in the world whose brain is wired like this, so I wanted to highlight it as a potential issue for my neurodivergent brethren. One game I had a much better time with was the cooking one, which sees you selecting symbols on a table with a moving arrow to match the ones pictured to make your partner's requested dish. And before you ask, yes, there is a fishing game. Aside from the minigames, there are a ton of side friendship and story quests to do, which are surprisingly uninvolved and usually comprise of nothing more than running up to a marker and reading a ton of dialogue, often making the game feel closer to a visual novel than an RPG. But where those games often have a rich story and characters with mediocre or just plain bad combat, Demonschool's problem is the exact opposite. I'm just going to come out and say it now. Demonschool has one of the best and most interesting combat systems I've experienced in a long time. Fights play out like a puzzle, or something closer to a game of chess than a traditional turn-based system. Battles take place between human and demonic space, and is the in-game reason for things like restricted movement and why the party heals after each battle. It's an unnecessary detail, but one I appreciate as I'm a big fan of this kind of diegetic narrative design. Each round is split into 2 phases, planning and action. During the planning phase, you plan your party's moves and actions, and when you're happy with your plan, you can lock it down and move on to the action phase. Taking actions uses action points, or AP, from a shared pool of 8. Each character's first move costs 1 AP and goes up by 1 each time the character is used. For example, you can move each character once for a cost of 4 points, then move 2 characters 1 more time each for a total of 6 actions costing 8 points. Or you can focus on using 1 character 3 times for a total of 6 points, then use the remaining 2 points on moving 2 other party members once for a total of 5 actions costing 8 points. It really all depends on the situation and who's in your party, and you don't have to use all of your AP in a turn if you don't want to. But working this out is a big part of the strategy, and thankfully it's a lot of fun. During battle, your characters can only move in straight lines and diagonals, and they have to travel the full distance as indicated by the highlighted tiles. And depending on the character and their ability, they'll automatically attack enemies, debuff them, or heal allies when moved into their targets. You can also perform a sidestep by selecting the tiles highlighted in blue, and an action that immediately follows a sidestep doesn't cost AP, making it one of the most useful movements in the game. Each character has their own attack style, which heavily dictates how they're used on the battlefield. For example, the main character Faye deals 1 damage and knocks enemies back 1 tile, whereas Namiko stuns and reduces their defense without doing any damage. However, she passes through her targets and pulls them forward 1 tile. And this is where the genius of the battle system comes into play. The key to winning is positioning characters and enemies to create combo attacks by pushing and pulling them into each other. Each character has an element assigned to them, and in the usual rock paper scissors system we all know and love, these elements make them strong or weak to enemies of opposing elements. In this case, when a character is hurt by an element they're weak to, they take 1 extra damage, but if they're hit by an element they're resistant to, the damage is reduced by 1. A party member's normal attack is non-elemental, but their special attack and combos deal elemental damage, and by performing a combo, both characters' elements combine to make a new, more powerful element for that attack. For example, if a character with the flame element and one with the flood element perform a combo, the new element will be blood. This even works if both characters have the same element. For example, if both have flame, their combo element will be blast. I'm probably making this sound way more complicated than it needs to be, and to be honest, it isn't really something I took notice of until near the end of the game, when strengths and weaknesses become important. But it's a system worth taking your time to learn, and if you can master it, you'll smash through enemies with little to no problem. Each character also has a special skill that can be used when their special points or SP meter is full. All characters gain 3 SP after a turn, and gain additional points by performing actions in battle. These moves can be absolute game changers in battle and have saved my arse on more than one occasion. Something else that I love about this battle system is that all moves you take aren't locked in until you choose to move to the action phase, so you're free to rewind and try a different tactic if your initial approach didn't work as you hoped. This means you're free to make mistakes and experiment until you execute the perfect turn. And once you're happy with your turn, you can activate the action phase, which sees all characters and enemies return to their starting positions and play the battle out in real time. After the action phase, the enemy takes their turn to move and attack, then your AP is replenished and you get to plan out your next turn, and so it is until the end. Battles have win conditions, usually kill X number of enemies in X number of turns, and once the target number has been reached, sigils at the top of the arena will light up, and you'll need to end your turn with any of your characters on a sigil to seal the portal and end the battle. But be warned, you'll receive a game over if all player characters are killed or demons break through the barrier at the bottom of the arena and pass through, which happened to me on many occasions. You're ranked after each battle and up to 3 class credits can be earned, but you'll receive 1 less credit if a party member dies and 1 less credit if you don't seal the portal before the end of the turn. And your other rewards are determined by how many enemies you defeat in the fight, so you can either end the fight once the target has been reached, or if you have enough moves left, kill a few more enemies before bailing out to increase your prizes. This ranking system kicked my ass as I refused to move on from a battle unless I got an A rank. And this self-imposed difficulty would often see me take longer to work out battles against normal enemies than against some bosses, as I'd retry again and again and again. But the feeling I got from pulling off a perfect turn, and sometimes even finishing the fight a turn early, was amazing. I cannot praise this battle system enough. It's one of those easy to use, hard to master systems that definitely gives back what you put in. It's more than possible to go through the game with a basic understanding, but mastering the character's movement and specials is super rewarding and is definitely the element of the game that kept me playing for over 60 hours. There are 15 characters in total, which if you ask me is too many, but I grew up on Final Fantasy VII, so anything over 9 party members is too much for my liking. But I quite like how they're balanced in Demonschool. Faye is more or less the only constant character in your party, with the other 3 free for you to pick yourself at the start of each battle. The exceptions to this rule being character friendship quests, which sees them and Faye locked into the party, giving you 2 spaces to fill, or a handful of story missions that see your party formation locked for a time. I'm not the biggest fan of this, as I like who I like, and being forced to use characters I genuinely dislike irks me. For example, there's a character called Gem who somehow comes across as a bigger sex pest than Teddy from Persona 4, and whenever I was forced to use them in my party, battles stopped being fun for me. But since every character plays so differently to one another, I have to admit it was okay being made to try out these different characters I'd otherwise ignore. And without giving too much away, there's a point where every single party member is used, and at that time, I was grateful that I not only knew how to use them properly, but that I'd also upgraded them. One of the most surprising aspects of Demonschool is that the characters don't level up at all. There's no EXP, no grinding, no numbers going up. Each character has 3 hit points, and most normal attacks stay at 1 damage point. And I've got to be honest, I love this. Coming off of RPGs where the difficulty is usually tied to how big the numbers are, it was so nice to play something where the difficulty was tied to actual gameplay and problem solving. Can't figure out how to kill 12 enemies in 3 turns? Try and try again until you can. Granted, you don't have to get an A rank on every fight like I did. In fact, if you didn't, you'd probably have a much less stressful time than I did. But the fact remains, keeping HP and damage output low meant that the challenge came from solving that fight's puzzle and not just brute forcing my way through it. That's not to say characters can't be upgraded, however. Each character can equip 2 skills and something called an aspect shift. Skills do things like offer immunities to certain status ailments, add elemental resistances, or add damage modifiers or status ailments to normal attacks. Whereas aspect shifts fundamentally change how the character plays and feels. For example, allowing them to sidestep 2 tiles instead of 1, but reducing their forward movement by 1 or boosting attack if more than 10 enemies are on the field. Stuff like that. New abilities are often given as rewards for finishing quests and side quests, or can be bought from the store. But annoyingly, they can't just be equipped once you receive them. You have to learn them first. This is super simple. You just need to select the ability you want to learn, then select 2 party members to study together, or 3 if it's an aspect shift, and you will immediately unlock that ability, which can then be equipped by any compatible character. However, the characters that did the learning will then rest for a few days, making them unable to learn anything until they're ready again, stopping you from spam learning abilities. And to be honest, I kind of hate this system. On the one hand, the game is called Demonschool, so having to study to learn abilities makes sense. I get it, it's cute. But on the other hand, if I've just won a tough battle and received an ability as an award, let me just use that ability. Similarly, if I've just saved a ton of opals to buy a new ability from the store, I don't want to have to take the extra steps to to study and learn it before I use it. And the study system itself is really unbalanced and heavily favours the back half of the game. Studying usually puts 2 characters out of commission for 4 days. So the first few weeks were an absolute slog with barely any abilities available, so much so I don't think I used any of them until week 6, by which point I'm over halfway through the game. And at that point new characters start to join at such frequency that it's possible to study for multiple abilities at once, and then they start to unlock exponentially, which is great for the back half of the game, but pointless for the front half. It's not the worst system, it just feels unnecessary and kind of soft locks your party out of useful abilities until you're in the end game, which just seems silly to me. Demonschool is a very good game. In fact, it's almost a great one, but if there's one thing letting it down, it's the writing. Now, originally I had this part written and recorded, but when I played it back it sounded less like criticism and more like bullying, and that's not the kind of videos I want to make. I understand writing is hard, especially for video games, which is why I don't do it. And there are plenty of articles and videos out there attacking the writing, and I don't want to add to that. So what I will say is I found the characters to be grossly underdeveloped, ranging from trite stereotypes at best to vapid caricatures at worst. The script is full to bursting with jokes and quips that just didn't land for me. It's very reminiscent of that I'm so random humour that was popular in the 2000s, which works for the timeline of the game, it's set at the end of the year 1999, but it just makes me cringe in the same way millennial core videos on TikTok do. And I'm a millennial. I won't lie and say it's all bad, there were definitely a couple of well-written jokes that caught me off guard, and the moment-to-moment stuff, like when the plot is moving forward, is fine. It's not going to win any literature awards, but it gets the job done, and for the most part, it's not bad. But I found the flavour text and character dialogue tiresome, and it made the game feel like a drag at times because there is just so much of it. From what I can see, there's only one writer credited, and although they have a couple of other writing credits to their name, there's nothing as big and expansive as this game. So hopefully they're not put off by all the criticism, give it another go, and can produce something great in the future. There is, however, one element of the writing that I cannot criticise, and that is its representation of LGBTQ characters, of which there are a lot. Demonschool is a very gay game, to the point I'm not sure there are any straight characters in the party. And what surprised me is at no point is a character's sexuality brought up as a personality trait or the reason they act the way they do. At one point, the party are talking to a new character, and they were talking to them for a short while before I realised they were being referred to as they/them. They weren't introduced as non-binary, there was no awkwardly forced declaration or conversation about what that means. The characters just knew which pronouns to use, and everyone got on with it. And in a time where we have Dragon Age the Veil Guard and that whole scene, I honestly found it refreshing. Also, none of the characters' sexuality or pronouns is ever used against them. There's no one being bullied or teased for being gay, they're just treated like people, and honestly, it's great to see. In fact, the only time the word gay is mentioned is when one of the characters makes a quip about it rhyming with Faye, but she just kissed her, so I'm pretty sure that's allowed. And look, I'm a cis, straight male, so my experience with LGBTQ specific media is limited at best, but as a consumer of mainstream media mostly aimed at straight dudes, seeing this type of representation gives me hope that one day inclusive won't be treated as a bad word. This is representation done right, and we need more things like it. So is Demonschool the new Persona? No. But for the most part, it's a fantastic game in its own right. The visual design is striking, and sadly lost here thanks to YouTube's compression, but trust me, when you're playing it for yourself, it is bright and beautiful. The soundtrack is haunting and atmospheric with an almost vaporwave feel, and the combat is truly excellent. I even enjoyed the story, despite the cringy dialogue and shallow character writing. That said, my issues with the writing shouldn't put players off, and I highly recommend this one to strategy and RPG fans, especially those who do enjoy the Persona series. I should probably also mention I encountered a ton of bugs and crashes during my playthrough, but as I said earlier, I was playing a pre-release copy and the devs are aware of all of these issues. I even submitted a bug myself and they actually got back to me about it, so I have every confidence in them and their ability to fix the game now it's launched. So yeah, that's my review of Demonschool. There's probably a lot more I could say, but then we'd really be getting into the weeds, and this review is already too long and well overdue. But until the next video, check it out, buy it, and support indie devs.